Tonight, Federal High Court Abuja orders the National Identity Management Commission and the Nigerian Immigration Service to release the certified true copy of an alleged minor's biodata to former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu and his wife. Court sentences Senator representing Delta North District Peter Nwaoboshi to 7 years in jail after convicting him of money laundering. The president says perpetrators of Thursday's deadly attack on Shiroro local government area of Niger State will not go unpunished. Describes incident as an attack on the country.
And on business news tonight, the Nigerian Exchange Limited suspends trading in shares of 9 listed companies for default filings.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's senior men's basketball team, the Tigers, lose to Cape Verde at the ongoing 2023 FIBA World Cup qualifiers in Kigali.
And from the nation's capital, students from the 19 northern states gather in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital, to protest federal government's inability to resolve its dispute with striking university lecturers.
And in international news from London, Xi Jinping says China's one country, two systems model of ruling Hong Kong has worked and must continue in the long term.
It's a case that was originally instituted in the United Kingdom but has now found its way to a Nigerian court for access to what's been described as a missing piece in the puzzle. And today, Justice Inyageko of the Federal High Court Abuja ordered the National Identity Management Commission, Nigerian Immigration Service, and other relevant agencies to release the certified true copy of an alleged minor's biodata to former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu and his wife, Beatrice. Justice Inyageko gave the ruling following an originating summon moved by Ekweremadu's counsel, Adegboyega Awomolo. The couple prayed the court for an order directing all the defendants to supply them with the information for the purpose of tendering same to establish their innocence in the criminal charges against them before the Uxbridge Magistrate Court in the UK. When the matter was called, Mr. Awomolo informed the court that all defendants had been served with the court processes.
Senior lawyer of the former Deputy Senate President, Mr. Adegboyega Awomolo, is here at the Federal High Court in Abuja to get an order that will facilitate the criminal case faced by his clients Ekweremadu and his wife, Beatrice Ekweremadu, on alleged organ harvesting at a magistrate court in London. One would have thought that the courtroom would be filled due to the nature of the case, but that, however, was not the case. Seeking the order to strike out the name of the 5th defendant, a prayer which was granted by the judge. The senior lawyer further told the court that all the defendants have been served with the court processes. He said further that the defendants had written letters indicating that until his client's application was granted by the court, they would not be able to respond to his request. In a short ruling, Justice Ekwo granted the prayers of the lawmaker, satisfied that the defendants had been served and looking at the averments in the application.
The gentleman called himself or gave himself 50 years of age, whereas all the official records of government, the official records of banks show that as at 2019, 2020, he was 21. Also, it's more than 21 now. So it is only right and proper for them to educate and inform the British authorities of the correct age of the gentleman. But the truth of the matter is that under the Constitution, our own Constitution, Federal Republic of Nigeria, they are entitled to be given facilities to defend themselves. And that right, enough to them under the Constitution, can be availed anywhere in the world. So they have now applied to Nigerian authority to give them records that gives them innocence or that depict their innocence in the allegations of bringing a minor. But the truth of the matter is that the British authority may not know. So if we obtain just photocopy and send it to the British authority, they will ignore it because whatever it is, as good as the paper on which it is written. But here, they will give us certified true copies. The court has made that order that they should give us certified true copy of this process.
In the application, the lawmaker and his wife had sued the National Identity Management Commission, the Nigerian Immigration Service, and 4 others, praying for an order for the defendants to supply documents that will establish the victim's true age.
Senator Courts, the senator representing Delta North Senatorial District in the National Assembly, Senator Peter Nwaoboshi, is to spend 7 years in prison. This follows his conviction and sentencing by the Lagos Division of the Court of Appeal, which also ordered that his 2 companies, Golden Touch Construction Project Limited and Sumin Electrical Limited, be wound up in line with the provisions of Section 22 of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2021. The EFCC had filed the appeal challenging the judgment of Justice Chukwujeku Aneke of the Federal High Court, which on June the 18th, 2021, discharged and acquitted the defendants of a 2-count charge of fraud and money laundering. The EFCC had arraigned 3 defendants over the acquisition of a property named Guinea House on Marine Road in Apapa, Lagos, for 805 million naira. According to the EFCC, part of the money paid to the vendor, a sum of 322 million naira transferred by Sumin Electrical Limited on behalf of Nwaoboshi and Golden Touch Construction Project Limited, was alleged to be part of proceeds of fraud. In his judgment at the time, Justice Aneke held that the prosecution failed to call vital witnesses and tender concrete evidence to prove the elements of the offences for which it charged the defendants. However, ruling on the EFCC's appeal today, the Court of Appeal held that the trial judge erred in dismissing the charges against the respondents. It maintained that the prosecution had proved the ingredients of the offence and consequently found the defendants guilty as charged. Staying with the judiciary, the Federal High Court Abuja has granted the request of the mother of late 14-year-old student of Premier Academy, Lube Karen Hapuj Akpara, to be joined in the suit filed by her school seeking to stop the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, from investigating the circumstances which led to her daughter's death. Ruling on Mrs. Vivian Akpara's application for joinder, the trial judge, Justice Evelyn Maha, held that the applicant had placed sufficient documents before her to justify her request to be joined in the suit. She also noted that there was no objection from any of the parties. Karen was allegedly raped at Premier Academy and a condom left inside her body by the rapist, infecting her with sepsis and compromising her immunity, which led to her death. Following a formal complaint lodged by Karen's mother at FCCPC accusing the school of breaching their contract of care and protection of her daughter, the commission had summoned the school demanding information and explanations. However, miffed by the summons from FCCPC, the school accused it of attempting to usurp the statutory powers of the police, asking the court to stop the action. Elsewhere, one of the Chibok girls recently rescued by troops of the Nigerian army has been recounting her ordeal in the hands of the terrorists. Ruth Beatrice and her son were rescued from Sambisa Forest by troops of 21 Army Armored Brigade Bama on June the 29th, and she confirms she is one of the girls kidnapped from the Government Girls Secondary School in Chibok in 2014. She says her husband was killed by an improvised explosive device which he was trying to plant against troops of the Nigerian army.
What's your name?
My name is Ruth Beatrice.
Ruth Beatrice. Where are you from?
Daga ina ke fito? Ki dinga kallo nan karki ji kunya.
Speak out.
Ki dinga magana. Daga Sambisa.
How did you get to Sambisa?
Ya ne kika sami kanki a Sambisa? Lokaci din an kwashe ni a makaranta ne.
Which school?
GGSS Chibok.
Chibok? How many of you?
2014.
Okay.
Mutuna ne. Mu 20 da wannan mu 203 ne.
When was that?
Wani shekara? A 2014 April.
2014 April? Where are the rest of you now?
Ina sauran mutane. Suna Sambisa. Wanda aka debe ku tare da su? Suna Sambisa.
They are still in Sambisa? Okay.
Ina baban yaro ne yake?
Where is the father of your boy?
Ya rasu. Wani shekara ya rasu? Yaki ya sani? Wani shekara ya rasu?
Rabiu Sani.
Rabiu Sani, inda ya rasu kenan. Wani shekara kenan?
Shekaran shi biyu a wani a Bahrain.
Shekara biyu kenan ya rasu.
Ukilam.
Wai ne ya kashe shi?
Ku ne kuka kashe shi amma bom ne ya je ya kanku ne shine bom ya tashi da shi. Yana haɗin bom ne ya je ya binne a hanya sai ya tashi da shi shi ne.
Okay. So how did you escape now?
Ya kin fito?
Na tashi karfe 4 safe ne na tashi.
3 days ago?
Kwana uku kenan yanzu? Okay. Ya ne ki ba su ganki hanya ba haka kike shiga hanya kin shigo?
Da suka gani a hanya lokacin na fita suka fara gani kawai na shiga jeji.
To yanzu kwana uku ne ya ne kin ciyar da yaron ki da kanki har kin shigo?
Na fita da abinci kaɗan ne kawai shine na.
Meanwhile, the federal government has assured Nigerians of its commitment to resettle internally displaced persons, this time in Zamfara state. The Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Iman Suleiman, gave the assurance during a visit to Tsunami Community, a suburban area of Gusau, the state capital, to assess the conditions of the IDPs.
These are internally displaced persons in Zamfara state, mostly women and children, who are currently seeking refuge at Tsunami Community on the outskirts of Gusau metropolis. Some of their family members have been maimed, killed, or abducted. Fatima Samaila and Hadiza Abdullahi are among those who fled their homes in Agama Lafia under Regia district of Gusau local government area when armed bandits invaded their community. According to the IDPs, all they need right now are basic amenities to ease their suffering.
We are IDPs. Our problem is lack of food and other basic needs. We want people and government to help us with clothing, toiletries. We rent houses to live in Tsunami. We get the money to rent houses to live from those who know our conditions and helped us with money. We are more than 25 in the house we are living in now, with parents and children. We need assistance with shelter, mattresses, mats and blankets.
We thank God for their visit and thank the government for the assistance it has been rendering to us. We want the government to do more to assist us. The bandits have sacked us from our communities and do not allow us to live in peace. We're here at Tsunami. We and our children squatting in people's homes. We need food.
As part of the federal government's efforts to alleviate their plight, the Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Iman Suleiman, pays them a visit. She says the ongoing construction of the resettlement city for displaced persons in Zamfara state has reached over 90% completion and the IDPs will be resettled soon.
We're going to build proper houses for people that would like to stay. We'll bring in all the necessary services, light, water, strengthen the school, make sure that the hospital can service the people that live in this community. So it's going to be a proper community. We're upgrading it from a temporary camp to a proper community.
Meanwhile, the APC national women leader, Betta Edu, who accompanied the federal government's team, also assures them that the government is working to provide succor to the IDPs.
We've addressed them, we've encouraged them, and would give them some cash transfer interventions to encourage the whole economy of this area and see how they can improve. Beyond this, like she said, more sustainable things are being done. For myself, under the APC, the Women's Wing, we are more interested in providing financial empowerment to the women, IDPs, and then, of course, also taking care of their health.
The federal government says it will continue to seek ways to improve the welfare of IDPs by providing protection and other assistance for a speedy return to normalcy.
In part two, after the break, crisis looms in the Bauchi State House of Assembly as 22 members pass a vote of no confidence on the principal officers, citing ineptitude and dereliction of duty. That's in a moment. Stay with us. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal High Court Abuja orders the National Identity Management Commission and Nigerian Immigration Service to release the certified true copy of an alleged minor's biodata to former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu and his wife. Court sentences Senator representing Delta North District Peter Nwaoboshi to 7 years in jail after convicting him of money laundering. Now, the president says perpetrators of Thursday's deadly attack on Shiroro local government area of Niger State will not go unpunished, describes the incident as an attack on the country. And President Xi Jinping says China's one country, two systems model of ruling Hong Kong has worked and must continue long term. The president has described Thursday's attack in Shiroro local government area of Niger State as a direct assault on Nigeria, which will not be allowed to go unpunished. President Muhammadu Buhari paid tribute to the gallant men of the security forces who lost their lives in the process of defending the attack. Part of the tribute reads, "We honor our security forces and particularly those brave souls who have given their lives fighting against the evil that is terrorism. That constitutes the best that Nigeria has to offer, and we remember each of them." Sadly, Nigeria's fight against terrorism continues. It is a battle that is taking its toll on all of us, but we shall not relent, nor shall we surrender. The president reiterates that Nigeria has reduced Boko Haram to a shell of its former self, but the terrorists are parasites who thrive even when the world is suffering. It says Nigeria is united in obliterating these demons, and the country grows closer to that goal each day. He then enjoined Nigerians to pray for the families and loved ones of those who sacrificed their lives in the fight against evil, and also pray for the safe and speedy return of those abducted. Well, it's day 3 of President Buhari's state visit to Portugal, and it turned out to be quite a busy day for him and his entourage. Well, top on his itinerary was a meeting with the Portuguese Prime Minister, Antonio Costa, in Lisbon, during which both nations signed some agreement. The MOUs signed include political consultations, research and exchange of information and documentation, cooperation in the field of culture, and cooperation in the field of women and girls development, as well as empowerment and gender affairs, youth and sport. The agreements, some of which were finalized between the two countries' investment promotion agencies and chambers of commerce, were signed on behalf of Nigeria by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, and the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Dari. Also today, President Buhari met with the Mayor of Lisbon, Fernando Medina, and was presented with a key to the city of Lisbon. He also held talks with chief executives in the country, and the president is optimistic that his state visit will further strengthen the goodwill and collaboration between both countries.
It's been very successful because I think because what it has done is that it has raised the level of cooperation between Portugal and Nigeria. What we are looking for are different partners around the world. We want to not just diversify our products, but we also, and our economy, but we also want to diversify our partners. And Portugal is a very important member of the European Union and is a leader in many fields, especially areas like renewable energy and pharmaceuticals and also IT. So it's a very important partner. And of course, Nigeria supplies over 50% of the gas that Portugal consumes. So they also need and benefit from the relationship with Nigeria. So it's a very, very important visit, and the deliverable is very, very important in the sector of trade, in particular, and also, politically and diplomatically.
More bilateral agreements, this time with Germany, to begin returning hundreds of Benin bronzes back to Nigeria, the biggest effort yet by a European country to return the looted artworks. This follows the announcement by Germany last year that it will begin returning the bronzes. The Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock, and Culture Minister Claudia Roth signed the agreement for Germany. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, who signed the deal on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, thanked Germany for having taken the lead in correcting the wrongs of the past. The first two artworks, the head of a king and a plaque depicting 3 warriors, were today handed over to Nigeria's representatives. According to Germany's foreign minister, the art pieces are not only magnificent, but they are some of Africa's greatest treasures which tell a story of colonial violence. Thousands of Benin bronzes, metal plaques and sculptures that once decorated the royal palace of the Benin Kingdom are now scattered around European museums after being looted by the British at the end of the 19th century. Germany is said to have over 1,000 of the artifacts kept in about 20 museums. France in November handed back 26 of the treasures, while 2 were returned by Britain earlier this year, with talks ongoing for more to follow. Back home in Bauchi State, crisis seems to be brewing in the House of Assembly as 22 members have passed a vote of no confidence on the principal officers of the House, citing ineptitude and dereliction of duty as reasons. The 22 members are also asking the leadership to tender their resignations or face impeachment. Deputy Majority Leader of the House and member representing Dambam Dagoda Jalam constituency, Babali Abubakar, made their positions known at the end of a meeting of the aggrieved members at the Assembly complex. Reacting to the development, Special Advisor on Assembly Liaison to Governor Bala Mohammed, Sani Bura, says the crisis is an internal affair and he believes that the matter will be resolved amicably amongst members. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Bauchi State House of Assembly, Abubakar Suleiman, is in Saudi Arabia for the Hajj pilgrimage. Well, Terry Kumi is here from our Abuja studio with more stories on the news at 10. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Kayode. Students from the 19 northern states of Nigeria today protested in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital, over the inability of the federal government to resolve the ongoing strike by members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, which has entered its 5th month. The students, under the auspices of the Coalition of Northern Groups Students, are asking traditional rulers, civil society organizations, and government at all levels to urgently intervene and end the strike.
The federal government have refused to listen to ASU or even consider their pleas. And this is something we are supposed to be responsible for. These same people in government have once been students. These same people in government are people that have enjoyed free education in the past. These same people in government are the same people that call themselves our parents. If they will not listen to the plea of our lecturers who are on strike, why wouldn't they listen to the plea of the Nigerian students? Why wouldn't they consider the fact that they enjoyed free education and the students in this time are not enjoying the free education they enjoyed? We have a lot of things happening. For students schooling in places like Kaduna, Katsina, and other northern states, they have to think of insecurity when traveling. There are a lot of issues happening. The schools are on strike, kidnapping is on the race, banditry is everywhere. How do you expect the students to even be comfortable when studying? And even in the midst of an unconducive academic learning environment, the federal government is refusing to hear the plea of these students. Is the federal government trying to tell us that they don't want to give students job or create job opportunities? That is why they are embarking on strikes like this, so that the students will not benefit for themselves? Or what is the federal government actually telling us in regards to this?
Meanwhile, the national youth leader of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Dayo Israel, says plans are underway to meet with the ministers of Labor and Education over the ongoing ASU strike. Addressing journalists after a closed-door meeting of the party's national youth leader stakeholders in Abuja, Mr. Israel says some of the youths at home on strike are also members of the APC. Therefore, youth leaders of the party cannot afford to stand aside and let youths continue to stay at home.
we feel totally, we have heartbreaks over the fact that our young people are still at home. We understand that this is totally unacceptable in all ramification, but we also understand that these are issues and matters of labor and trade relations and all of that. But we as youth leaders of the party have agreed that we're going to engage our Minister of Labor to sit down with him and understand what exactly is the issues, what exactly is going on, and how can we also sit with the Ministry of Education. We're already reaching out to be able to book appointments with them, and also with ASU themselves. We're also going to reach out to them. And in our own little way, we can't fold our hand. This is our country, and these are our brothers and sisters. Many of those who are home are also our party members. And so we want to ensure, but we also understand that these things are not easy. Every side have their angles and their dimension. We're going to be practical with that.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, the Nigerian Exchange Limited suspends trading in shares of 9 listed companies for default filings. That's on Business News. Join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is going beyond tracking of drug traffickers to providing help for victims of drug abuse by setting up a toll-free helpline center here in the nation's capital. Speaking during the commissioning of the center in Abuja, chairman of the agency, retired Brigadier General Buba Marwa, says drug users and addicts now have access to treatment with the help of experts in counseling. According to him, the provision of the toll-free helpline is a milestone in accessing quality health care for drug users in the country, and it will be extended to the 6 geopolitical zones.
The step we are taking today will be appreciated by those who have a good grasp of the consequences of the patterns of abuse exposed by the 2018 UNODC National Drug Use and Health Survey. Except we want to indulge in self-delusion. Having 14.3 million people abusing drugs and an abuse pattern that includes poly-drug use, widespread abuse of pharmaceutical opioids, and a sizable number of people who inject drugs comes with grave health consequences. We have simplified the helpline service by making it language sensitive, whereby callers have the choice of language including English, Pidgin, Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. And in due course, more languages will be offered. And very importantly, the helpline is open 24/7 and it is free.
Well, staying with the impact of drug abuse, 70% of the youth population in Nigeria is threatened by drugs, and that's according to the National Drug Use and Health Survey of 2018. To curb this trend, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has been campaigning to men, women, the young and old on the dangers of drug abuse. One of the agency's latest stops is Anambra in Anambra State, where youths were told to save the future by saying no to drugs.
The Anambra State Command of the Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, engages in Awka, the state capital, as part of activities to mark the 2022 United Nations International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking.
Consequences of drug abuse.
The command sets aside another date to gather the youths purely on reasons of convenience, but the message remains the same. There's a need to address drug use challenges, as this is increasingly reflecting in the present-day security problems.
Some of the drugs excite or inhibit mood. Some of them bring about certain sensation, and they can alter individuals' consciousness.
There are also concerns that the involvement of youth in drug abuse is causing them hardship.
The truth of ground indicates that our society needs to do more in the area of raising awareness of the damaging effects of drug abuse on human health.
Youth leaders in Anambra State are equally worried about the increasing incidences of drug abuse and cultism in Amansia community, Awka North local government area. The National Youth Council of Nigeria is one of those organizations drawing the attention of young people and how the future may not be so bright if these circumstances persist.
If people can make it possible to have employment in this war, if people can make it possible to generate what we call law and peace for this community.
Meanwhile, President General of Amansa community believes dialogue and persuasion can help youth overcome some of these challenges.
Drug abuse in our community has been a very big problem, and we've been fighting tooth and nail, working so hard to make sure that it is eliminated in Amansi.
With the report that young people form the majority of drug abusers in the country, a reason why the leadership of the NDLEA says it will continue to take the campaign against drug trafficking and abuse to every community until the battle is won.
They will be able to take right and healthy decisions under her supervision.
That's all from the nation's capital. Kaide, back to you.
Well, thank you, Terry. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Niger Delta Affairs and Senator representing Delta North, Mr. Peter Nwaoboshi, has vowed to challenge the Court of Appeal judgment at the Supreme Court. Mr. Nwaoboshi, in a statement by his media team, says they are confident that the Supreme Court will subject the judgment to critical review accordingly. The statement adds that it is not unusual to have judgments that astound the parties, depending on where the pendulum swings, saying the judgment arose from an appeal by the EFCC against the judgment of the Federal High Court in Lagos, which discharged and acquitted him and co-defendants at the trial level. Well, the Lagos State government has called on experts in the construction industry to contribute towards the adoption of the National Building Code in the state to help curb illegal practices in the sector. The State's Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Idris Salako, made this known at a sensitization workshop in Ikeja. He also says the evolution of the Lagos Building Code will help minimize incidents of building collapses in Lagos.
Department of Building, University of Lagos.
Professionals in the building sector converge on Sheraton Hotel, Ikeja, for proper orientation on National Building Code about to be domesticated in Lagos. The State Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development is working closely with the Nigerian Energy Support Program to achieve a robust building code for Lagos.
The move to domesticate the National Building Code, which is quite in sync with the clamor in professional circles for its adoption in regulating Lagos built environment, represents another bold step to consummate existing regulations by embracing the relevant aspect of the code to strengthen the performance-based standards for building in the state.
The building code generally is designed to set a standard for the building, for the construction, design and construction of buildings in order to mitigate disasters and hazards like fires, and even if it's in an area that is sort of prone to natural disasters, you have provided some sort of barrier, human barrier, to prevent the damage that these can cause.
For the state chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, integrating a national building code in Lagos will help regulate the construction sector.
If you don't comply with the building codes, you may be on the hook for fines, an expensive tear out, or redo your project. A contractor needs to keep up with building codes that change from state to state and from town to town. The Technical Committee on Domestication of Federal Republic of Nigeria National Building Code to be created should be given the mandate of producing a comprehensive building regulation for Lagos State government to meet up with the best global practice.
The Office of Works also seeks the cooperation of all stakeholders to ensure safety of lives and property in Lagos.
It represents the minimum standards for design, construction, and occupancy and maintenance of buildings in the environment. That way, the quality and safety and accessibility and structural integrity of these structures is achieved.
The National Building Code Sensitization Workshop is a welcome development for stakeholders in the construction industry who say they are ready to support the actualization of the Lagos Building Code.
And in Kaduna, the state government has flagged off the distribution of free uniforms and other learning materials to primary school pupils to tackle the menace of out-of-school children. The exercise, which is under the World Bank-assisted Better Education Service Delivery for All program, aims to enroll more children into the basic education level in the next 12 years. The distribution of the free learning materials to pupils is in line with Governor Nasir El-Rufai administration's promise to make basic and post-basic education free, accessible, and compulsory.
Since its inception in 2015, the administration of Governor Nasir El-Rufai in Kaduna State has introduced some reforms aimed at revamping the state's education sector through improved planning and addressing some of the systemic barriers that hinder access to education. Apart from the introduction of free meals during school hours, the government has also been providing free school uniforms and other learning materials to public primary school pupils, and thereby freeing their parents from any financial burden. Under the World Bank-assisted Better Education Service Delivery for All, the Kaduna State has commenced another round of distribution of free learning materials to pupils at the NDLEA Primary School, Ungwansaki, in Kaduna North local government area.
The distribution of 247,000 school uniforms, 247,000 school bags. We also have whiteboards to be distributed. All of this is to ensure that learning is delivered with high quality.
To provide quality learning, you need, first and foremost, quality teachers. Secondly, quality materials and books. This step by Kaduna State government is a step in the right direction.
In addition to this, huge investments have been made to build classrooms and other educational infrastructure in many of the public schools in Kaduna State.
We have therefore renovated over 500 public primary and secondary schools and provided perimeter fences in many schools as required by United Nations agencies for the security of our children. New schools have been built, including new science secondary schools and many blocks of classrooms in primary and other secondary schools across the state.
In spite of the interventions, the high number of out-of-school children, especially in the north, still remains a huge challenge.
Kaduna State particularly, we have many children that are out of school. So this is just like a drop in the ocean, because we need to do a lot more to see that more children get the opportunity that they deserve.
While the aim of the Better Education Service Delivery for All program is geared towards taking out-of-school children into the classroom, stakeholders are highly expectant that the government will come up with strong measures to monitor the attendance and enrollment of children into the classroom.
And for the latest stories in the world of business, here's Teniola Shaboali.
Thanks a lot, Kaide. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian Exchange Limited has suspended trading in shares of 9 listed companies for failure to file their audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021. The companies suspended include Ardova, EcoCore, Royal Exchange, Mutual Benefit, and Niger Insurance PLC. The suspension, which takes effect today, July the 1st, will only be lifted upon the submission of the relevant accounts in accordance with all applicable rules of the NGX. As Europe seeks to wean itself off Russian natural gas, Algeria and Niger have revived a decade-old multi-billion-dollar gas project. The Trans-Saharan gas pipeline could send up to 30 billion cubic meters of gas per year to Europe from Nigeria to Algeria and on to Europe. According to the Minister of State for Petroleum, Mr. Timipre Silva, funding for the project will come from Europe. And the equities market sustained slight positive gains in today's trading session as total turnover drops. Ini John Mekwa has the details for us.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, not an impressive way to start the second half of the year. Nigeria's equities market still looks undecided on which sentiment to settle with, even though the all-share index was marginally up today, bringing 6 billion naira to the total market value. But we see a further drop in volume today, an even deeper drop in value. It's gone from almost 4 billion naira for Thursday trade to just about 1.7 billion naira today. That's a huge drop there. The financial services still dominates the top trades in what looks like a mixture of cherry picking and bargain hunting. The top two, GTCO and UBA, tanked 5 kobo each to close at 20 naira 45 kobo for GTCO and 7 naira 40 kobo for UBA. However, Accessco and Zenith Bank made up for those declines as their shares gained 15 kobo each to close at 21 naira 65 kobo and 9 naira 40 kobo respectively. The bull, however, pulled through in spite of that at the close of trade. At least that's a consolation for the weekend. That's a stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to Coyote.
Well, thank you, Teniola. Chinese President Xi Jinping has defended the one country, two systems framework in a speech marking 25 years since Britain returned Hong Kong to China. Well, for more on this and other international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Xi Jinping says China's one country, two systems model of ruling Hong Kong has worked in protecting the city and must continue long term. The Chinese leader mounted a stern defense of the political system in a speech in Hong Kong following recent international criticism. Hong Kong is marking 25 years since Britain returned the city to China. It is under tight security as it hosts Mr. Xi, who is on his first trip outside of the mainland in 2 years. Under one country, two systems, Hong Kong is supposed to be governed in a way that gives it a high degree of autonomy and protects freedom of speech and assembly and other rights not found in mainland China. But in recent years, China has been criticized for increasing its control of Hong Kong and enacting laws and reforms that stifle free speech and dissent. At least 19 people, including one child, have died in overnight Russian missile strikes on Ukraine's southern Odessa region. That's according to Ukraine officials. The state emergency service, DSNS, says nearly all the victims were in a 9-story building hit by one missile in the village of Sarivka. At least 2 people, including the child, were killed in a separate strike on a holiday resort in the village. Russia has fired dozens of missiles on Ukrainian cities in the past few days. American basketball star Brittney Griner has gone on trial in Russia on charges of illegal cannabis possession. Ms. Griner, a 3-time WNBA League champion and 7-time All-Star, was seen arriving handcuffed at a court in the town of Khimki, just outside Moscow. If convicted, the 31-year-old faces up to 10 years in prison. The US says she is being wrongfully held and should be freed. Russia denies that her detention is motivated by the US-Russia tensions over the Ukraine war. Ruja Ignatova, also known as the missing Cryptoqueen, has been placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. The Bulgarian woman, believed to be in her 40s, is wanted for her alleged role in running a cryptocurrency scam known as OneCoin. Federal investigators accuse the fugitive of using the scheme to defraud victims out of more than $4 billion. She's been missing since 2017, when US officials signed an arrest warrant and investigators began closing in on her. Sudanese security forces have fired tear gas at hundreds of protesters who rallied for a second day in a row in the capital against last year's military coup. Demonstrators massed again near the presidential palace in Khartoum a day after at least 9 people were killed during mass rallies against the military takeover led by Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan last October. The death toll from protest-related violence has reached 113 since the coup. Sudan's police accused protesters of wounding 96 police and 129 military officers, as well as damaging vehicles and setting fires. Extraordinary footage of a landslide in Peru has emerged, which damaged at least 150 homes. Footage shows how a landslide in Cruz de Xalapa hill covered nearby houses with a cloud of earth. No deaths were reported, there were no serious injuries, but some people were affected by the dust. That's according to the Regional Health Directorate. They also say they are currently looking for people who may have gone missing after the incident. US stocks have seen their worst first half of a year since 1970, as concerns grow over how steps to curb inflation will affect economic growth. In the last 6 months, the benchmark S&P 500 index fell 20.6%, while other major US indices also dropped sharply. Stocks in the UK, mainland Europe and Asia have also suffered steep losses. It comes as central banks around the world are trying to rein in soaring living costs, with prices of essential goods like food and fuel jumping. And finally, Norwegian coastguards have rescued a whale entangled in ropes off the coast of northern Europe. The mammal was floating listlessly on the surface of the Barents Sea, its tail trapped in ropes and a buoy, when the KV Bison Coast Guard ship approached after receiving a tip from the crew of a local ferry company. The footage posted on the Coast Guard's Twitter account shows a crew member reaching down to cut the animal free. It took some 10 to 15 minutes for the Coast Guard to disentangle most of the ropes. The whale then dived and flipped its tail, splashing and spraying water before swimming away. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's The Tigers have begun the third window of the FIBA World Cup qualifiers with a 79-70 points loss against Cape Verde at the BK Arena in Kigali. Now, after winning the first quarter 15-14 on a Chimeze Metu layup, Nigeria lost the second quarter 25-11 before bouncing back to win the third quarter 21-17. The fourth quarter ended 23 points apiece. Christian Mekowolu led the Tigers with 13 points and 13 rebounds, with Uche Iregbu scoring 12 and Metu adding 10. Nigeria will look to rebound when they face Mali in their second game, Group A, on Saturday. And it's Game, Set and Match as well on Sports News. It's back to Kaede with the wrap of the news at 10. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.
Thank you, Victor. And the main news again. The Federal High Court in Abuja today ordered the National Identity Management Commission and the Nigerian Immigration Service to release the certified true copy of an alleged minor's biodata to former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu and his wife, who were facing organ harvesting charges in a UK court. Also today, an appeal court in Lagos sentenced Senator representing Delta North District, Peter Nwaoboshi, to 7 years in jail after convicting him of money laundering. The senator says he will head to the Supreme Court to challenge the judgment. And that's the news at 10 for today, July the 1st, 2022, which, by the way, is a special day for us here at Channels Television. So on behalf of the team, here's wishing our chairman, Dr. John Momo Owen, a special happy birthday and a truly excellent year ahead. I'm Kaede Kikiru. Good night.